Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm live here today, Tuesday, March 14th at 5:10 p.m., talking about that specific time, talking about both Venus in Aries and Mars in Gemini. We just had this big shift that just started. Actually, both of these planets, Venus moved from Pisces into Aries earlier this week, and Mars moved from Taurus into Gemini, where it's going to be until May 10th. Venus will be in Aries until April the 6th. So we're going to talk about both of these today. And again, it's the Venus in Aries is really about transforming a certain amount of selfishness relative to our desires and our strong ideas about them and about our agreements and whatnot. And Mars in Gemini also brings a very powerful focus of Mars, but it brings it into the verbal realm. And it's the courage to change our ideas and to cycle through this notion that our opinions are actually ideas, defending our opinions rather than listening and thinking, and also some sort of misdirected actions and whatnot. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But first, I want to direct you to please like, share, and subscribe to the channel here on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or other places. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell on YouTube to get notified of new videos and live streams. Also, leave a comment, share it with others on Facebook, Twitter, or other social media platforms. Yeah, so I would appreciate that. So let's just jump in here to this shift that we have. The first is this Venus in Aries, which changed a couple days ago. Now, Venus had been either in signs ruled by Saturn, which would be Capricorn and Aquarius, where it's really quite powerful and supported. And it's powerful and supported, I should say, Venus is powerful and supported in Saturn signs because it's where we're practical, where we're realistic. And again, Venus is where we have a lot of like romantic projections or ideas and trying to negotiate and navigate our desires with others through massive projections and whatnot, because that's really what Venus winds up bringing, this sort of wispy promise of happiness, particularly with other people and the agreements that we make with them, which is really all our romantic relationships are. They're just agreements. So in Saturn ruled signs, again, it's very practical, very humble, where we're thankful for the accommodations that others make on our behalf and whatnot. So it can be quite supportive of Venus in the signs of Capricorn and Aquarius. And then it went into Pisces, which is actually different. Venus is exalted in Pisces, but it's also sort of blown out of proportion a little bit in a sort of otherworldly proportion, where we're sort of connecting to the source directly and sort of in many ways even bypassing our worldly connections and interactions when it's in Pisces. But Venus was with Jupiter in Pisces as well, so it was a time of great inspiration and hope. But again, on the level of our relationships during that time, it's actually not necessarily as supportive as you might think, because of all those things I just mentioned. It's not as practical, it's not as appreciative and down to earth and willing to engage and be and commit to working through things, which is what the Saturn energy is. When it was in Pisces, again, it's more like, in many ways sort of disappointed with the agreements that we make here on Earth to some extent. But it was joined Jupiter, so it really brought a lot of fulfillment in our spiritual connections and the connections to our teachers and gurus and things like that. So that was the real benefit. But now it's gone into Aries, whereas it says transforming selfishness. We really have to look at the nature of our agreements and our desires through Venus and how they, compel us to, move forward with something, or, especially with our agreements, or sort of bypass them, because we can really get into quite a bit of bypassing as well with Venus in general. And I I wrote a Instagram post and, some other social media posts that actually kind of sum that up a bit. It says, with Venus and Aries, we can sense how we've been burned by others in the agreements we tried to make with them, and we're not having it. Like we now, we're like, oh, I tried to make this agreement and now I feel burned. So now we're ready maybe to do some burning of our own, right? So the creative option is to purify and elevate your desires towards something that's more transcendent and build on those lessons of Pisces. Again, Pisces is where we were trying to connect to something otherworldly. Now we can get very clear about that and approach that real sort of, finding that beauty and joy in all things from a more purified place, because it goes into Aries where we can act on that thing. So rather than direct the frustration of Aries outward as anger, we can look inward toward that real source of your frustrations and disappointments with others. And also notice how you're burning toward others. You're more selfish than you think. I promise you that. That's part of what I also wrote in my post. You're a lot more selfish than you think. I promise you. We all are, right? Because we feel our own desires first. And even the agreements that you make and the relationships you have and the compromises that you're willing to make and all of that is done because of what you want. It's what you want first, because you want it. You want the connection with the person. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I'll make this agreement if I get this thing back. And again, you have to realize that you're the focal point of it, which you meaning your ego. So again, and that nature is very burning to others as well. You're a lot more selfish in this regard than you realize. So really think about that. But in many ways, the issue of Venus comes down to respect as well. And we wind up feeling disrespected with Venus. But, and again, when it goes into Aries, we're somewhat frustrated about that. But realize no one can disrespect you. Only you can allow yourself to be disrespected. And why would you do that? Why would you allow yourself to be disrespected? Because your desire to connect, which is Venus, must be willing to kindly speak up and risk breaking connection and communicate at the first sign of feeling disrespected to see if that connection or agreement is really for you. But it's risky because that could be the end of something you want. So let's say that you meet someone that you like and you start to feel like certain part of the connection is not feeling respectful to you. Well, you have to be willing to speak up at that point and get clear about, hey, you know what, this is something that is important to me, or, whatever it might be. And the reason we don't do it is because we're afraid, if I say that, maybe I'll break the connection and that person won't want to talk to me anymore. And I really want them to talk to me, so I won't say anything. So I'm willing to live with being disrespected and feeling unappreciated. I'm willing to live with being disrespected. And again, in this context, you're disrespecting yourself in order to have the connection. But then you can't blame the other person because of that, because you went along with something. So again, what's more important? The price you're willing to pay? So what's more important? And what's the price you're willing to pay in order to be happy? So when you're dialed into this equation, then you won't allow yourself to feel disrespected and then letting resentments and blame toward them build up and then snapping back at them later. You'll express those things kindly and in proper measure when you feel it. If you want a different type of relating with them and you express that and you express it kindly, I mean, you're not, you're just expressing it kindly. And if they don't accept it and they get mad because you expressed it or whatever, then you'll know, okay, then this connection isn't for me and I can let it go. But again, if you allow that disrespect to continue, then you wanted the connection with them more than you wanted your own self-respect. And often what happens is we'll hide that thing and also never even give the other person a chance to correct what we think they're doing wrong. This is what we have to be careful of with Venus, is letting our resentments build up, not even letting the other person know how we feel, and then sort of blowing up at them. And again, in that case, we're the one being disrespectful. So again, the whole thing winds up, is a lot of shadows and projections going on here, because we try to tolerate something that we didn't really like, and we keep going along with it and maybe dropping little hints and hoping the other person is going to get it, but we don't really say anything. And then eventually we might sort of blow up and get mad at them because they dared express, let's say that they express themselves again and then we didn't like it. We sort of blow up at them and they didn't even know what was going on. So this is definitely something that's possible. Instead, what we need to be able to do is be dialed into those sort of no compromise zones from the beginning and be willing to walk away from the connection if it doesn't work out the way we want. Now, that doesn't mean we have to walk away really quickly or abruptly or that we have to walk away at all. But we can give the other, person the opportunity to hear what bothers us, speak the thing, speak it calmly and plainly and lovingly and with just very honestly, and see what they say. Give them an opportunity to, correct the record or to say, oh, okay, I didn't realize that. I know myself, that sort of blindsiding that happens at times when people go along with something and then all of a sudden they just kind of blow up about something and you didn't even know they were upset. And again, in that example, they're the one being disrespectful. So again, this is what we can wind up doing. We wind up feeling disrespected, letting things build up, and then we're angry and we sort of blow up at the person, or maybe we're blowing up inside. Maybe we're raging inside about something that felt so wrong. How could you have done that to me or said that or did this thing? And we can't even speak it to the person. And so we keep it inside. Again, this is another thing that can definitely happen. And sometimes, especially when you get a lot of feminine energy in someone's chart, where instead of processing things externally, like they have a lot of planets in the feminine signs. And again, the feminine signs are earth and water signs: Taurus, Cancer, Virgo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Pisces. Those feminine signs tend to keep things inside and tend to kind of bottle them up and tend to ruminate on them and sort of brood over things. And then rather than just being open in communication and speaking it externally, they ruminate and it becomes very emotional, and they sort of go and brood and figure the whole story out themselves and don't even really communicate about it. But inside, they might be raging. And this could be something, again, if someone has a lot of those feminine planets, or I'm sorry, they have a lot of that feminine energy. And by the way, I'm not just saying women, because women can have masculine energy as well. But I'm saying if someone has a lot of planets in the feminine signs, maybe you're not confrontational and you're thinking, well, I don't do that. I don't, I wouldn't explode at someone. Well, maybe you're exploding inside. And maybe you're withholding even having the conversation because you're so irritated, or I don't know, whatever it might be. Venus going into Aries is going to show, especially, a change from even last week when we were more like, well, okay, I guess whatever's going on is going on. Now Venus goes into Aries and it's like we can feel that heat and that sort of very decisive feeling of disrespect, let's say, in our engagements and in our agreements. That can be sort of, certainly romantic relationships and other kind of agreements and friendships. But any recent miscommunications, again, we've just been through for the last couple months a cycle where Venus was, really connecting us in many ways, maybe to some, some beautiful interactions and back and forth. But then there's a potential for confusion as it went through Pisces and joined Jupiter. Now it's in Aries, where it's really formulating some strong maybe opinions or ideas about those things. So within this context, you could see where just this week, Venus going into Aries has really started or has really, brought a shift where there's more heat around that thing. And you're like, you know what, I am irritated about this or this kind of thing, and I'm frustrated about it. And we can feel those sort of frustrations. Now, you can also see here that I have the nakshatras. It's in Ashwini nakshatra, which has to do with speed, but maybe also distraction or focus, and also of prana, that vitality and that energy, until March 23rd, right? So here we're on March 14th for about another 10 days. It's in Ashwini nakshatra, that part of Aries that's fast. It's related to twin horses running forward. And then from the 23rd until April 3rd, it's in Bharani Nakshatra, which has to do with consequences, fertility, feeling punished. You say, what do these things have to do with each other? Well, Bharani is symbolized by the like the uterus of the woman, where a baby is created, right? Where life is created. And so again, there's an implication of consequences of our actions, and that can feel kind of heavy and sort of like a sentence and something we have to bear. And it can also feel like we're being punished because something has happened and we get the consequences of that thing, and now we have to bear it. So this first part of Venus in Aries, be careful of what you do, particularly around these things, particularly around breaking connection or impulsively, again, breaking connection can be very easy right now, not just with Venus and Aries, but with Mars and Gemini, which I'm about to talk about. Be very careful with that, and listen to what I'm saying about these feelings of maybe feeling unappreciated. And again, you're maybe a lot more selfish or self-absorbed than you realize as well, and just being more thoughtful about these things, because you're going to be bearing those results. And Bharani is where we might even feel like we're being punished and having to bear the results of what we're doing now. And that's from the 23rd until April 3rd. And then Kritika Nakshatra, April 6th, or I'm sorry, the 3rd until the 6th. But then Kritika also goes into Taurus. And that's more about purification, alchemy, ceremony, warmth. It's more of a, in the aftermath of the Bharani, heaviness. So, we're still at the beginning of the year. I have 2023 forecast that is going to be very pertinent. It's already been pertinent for the first part of the year, but coming up, we have the eclipse cycle, and we have a lot of other stuff coming up for the rest of the year. So listen to this quickly, this quick little video about how you can dial into your forecast here for 2023 and know what the year has in store for you. Get the 2023 Vedic astrology forecast for your zodiac sign or for all 12 zodiac signs. In it, I analyze the 11 most important shifts we'll all be facing in 2023. I analyze these based on your sign, that would be your Vedic rising sign. In January, we have the big retrograde cycle of Mercury. Then in the middle of January, Saturn makes a huge shift into Aquarius for more than 2 years. Then, by the time we hit the spring, Jupiter moves into Aries, and we also have eclipses in Aries and a lot more, including Jupiter-Rahu conjunction. In the summer, Mars and Leo, along with Venus and Mercury retrograde cycles, show some major transformations for us all. At the end of the year, the lunar nodes change signs and we have eclipses and a lot more. So again, learn about what all of this means for you in 2023, or get all 12 forecasts so you can know what this means for your loved ones as well. So yeah, that's a great way to stay in tune with the astrology all year. So I hope you avail yourself of that, either 2023vedicastrology.com or my2023vedicastrology.com. The first one gives you an overview of 2023, and then my 2023 Vedic astrology has it for your sign, all of those shifts. So building on what we just talked about, again, we just also now had Mars move into Gemini. So it's not just that Venus has gone into Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars, but we also have Mars, which is the planet of defending our boundaries and fighting and being willing to throw down over things that make us angry and whatnot. He's gone into Gemini, which is a sign of talking. I said in my March forecast, I made a statement that said Mars should not be talking. Mercury is the speaker. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini and Virgo. And when Mercury's talking, there is information flowing. Mercury's also listening. He's communicating. He's flexible. He's not just defending his own opinions. Again, I say his, it's yours. So when Mercury is talking, there's listening, there's also sharing, there's also genuine curiosity about another person's point of view. You want to hear what they have to say. You're not just there defending what you already think is right and then expecting them to try to prove you wrong. You see, this is the difficulty with Mars. Mars is the planet and the energy in you that wants to take action and wants to get to the goal as quickly as possible because you're busy, you're excited, you want to get the thing done, you're impatient, you don't feel like waiting around, and you don't want stupid things to waste your time, all of that stuff. This is why why Mars is that part of you that's also impatient. And the thing is that it's about action. So those opinions and those ideas, and this is the way it should be, and this is the way it shouldn't be, that's great for compelling you to do something. Do something, not say something. Do something, which means right and wrong. What's the right thing to do? Well, the right thing to do is wake up early, eat the right food that makes me the strongest, do this practice, do this thing. We all know what's right. We all know it's right. We just don't do it because it's very hard to do what's right. We all know what's right. We just don't do it because it's hard to do what's right. We want to do what makes us comfortable, what makes us happy, what's fun. Again, what makes us comfortable and happy is Venus. What's fun is Mercury. What makes us feel good is the moon. None of that is Mars. None of it. Because many times the Mars thing, which is doing what we know is right, is going against what's going to make me happy in the moment. For example, the things I said, we all know what's right. Get up early. Well, who wants to get up early? We want to sleep. We want to sleep, lay in the bed with those covers and be lazy. Okay? That's what we want. Do what we know is right, which doesn't mean get on the computer and goof off on our phone and internet all day. That's what's fun. It's not what's right. We know what's right, and it's not that. But we do it anyway because we want to have fun. We're an animal. We're just that we live 99% of our life as an animal through the ego, wanting to eat too much food, sleep, lay around, be lazy, have fun, have everybody like us, have everything make us feel good all the time. And Mars is not that energy. In fact, he's trying to destroy that all the time. Mars is the part of you that goes along going, this is making me weak. I need to stop doing that. Well, actually, that's what he should be doing. Is I need to stop doing that. Instead, what Mars is doing is, this is making me weak. You need to stop doing that. You're making me weak. It's your fault. You're the reason I'm unhappy because of what you said, what you did. And now I'm going to fight to change you, not fight to change myself and my own weakness. So when Mars is powerful, the person takes that on. When it's not, he makes you take it on. The way I say it is that Mars gives us the capacity and makes us willing to suffer for our principles, right? Suffering, like, again, sacrificing, getting up out of the bed, eating the right amount of food. And when he's powerful, we're willing to suffer for our principles. And when he's not, we're willing to make you suffer for our principles. I know what's right, and you're not doing it. That's what Mars is when he's weak. And it usually comes out in some form of some form of conversation or opinions where again, especially when he goes into Gemini, now that whole function of what's making me weak, Mars is kind of like on patrol radar. This is making me weak. Aha, this idea. You said this thing, because Gemini is very much about ideas, our interactions with other people, what people have communicated. Now Mars is kind of on patrol with a lot of opinions about the things. It's these opinions that are making me weak, or these ideas. So now I'm going to go in there and destroy all the wrong ideas. And again, Mars will go in there with a lot of opinions rather than doing the actions that we know are right, which is what Mars is supposed to be doing. And I say Mars, it's the Mars in you, your energy. So we wind up sliding on that discipline and the things we know are right and doing them, because Gemini is also ruled by Mercury, and it's a dual sign. It's not focused. It's diffuse in the attention, because that's what communication is. It's open. It's not convinced. Gemini and Mercury aren't the energies that are convinced that we're right. They're the ones that are open and saying, I don't know. Let me see. I'm curious about what this is, and I'm curious about what you have to say. But I also want you to listen to what I have to say. That's the thing about Mercury. It's a Rajasic planet of give and take. And so Mars in Gemini has that it's really in the highest sense. It's the courage to actually change our ideas, to change our ideas. This is in the highest sense, to change our ideas, not to try to change other people's ideas. Again, Mars and Gemini can be like, I'm going to change you and make you see how you're wrong for what you did because I'm right, and here's why. And here's all my opinions to try to prove it, right? And that doesn't benefit the Mars in you. It doesn't benefit the Gemini in you. None of it. So instead, it's the courage to listen to what I'm saying here right now and notice this, and to really get clear about the ideas you have about certain things, about the opinions you have about things. And rather than inflict them on others to try to change them or to get frustrated by them and have them sidetrack you, you can use that energy to really see how, in many ways, you're in these sort of black and white ruts. And by the way, many of them may have to do with your communication style. We all have this way that we communicate. And maybe you communicate in a very kind of aggressive way, or in a controlling way, or I don't know, something that, again, maybe you're not aware of it. Maybe you've heard, do you have messages that come to you from people, or have been coming to you your whole life, or now, or whatever, about the same sort of miscommunications that you have, right? Mars is now going to go there, and you'll probably be challenged to keep making the same communication errors, let's say, and just fighting over those things, or maybe saying, you know what, yeah, maybe I'm not communicating as clearly as I think, or maybe I'm just kind of cycling through, the way I think things should be. Again, it's very easy to say to yourself, well, I don't have all these strong opinions. I'm very open and all. Again, it might not look the way you think. It might just be where your default habits and tendencies around things, it's maybe time to question them a little bit and say, maybe the way I am doing things, and the routines and the things that I do, especially to protect myself, because Mars is there to try to protect us. And the things I do to protect myself from danger or to establish my boundaries are maybe not as effective as I think, or maybe they're creating problems, and maybe I can, rethink some of that. Again, so Mars is, especially on the intellectual level, is not really an intellectual energy. It's a black and white energy. And we get a lot out of that, especially when we use those strong opinions to defend the wisdom that we've accrued in life. So Jupiter and Mars are very close, because Jupiter connects us to higher teachings and gives us the guidance to say, no, this is the right thing. And then Mars has to put it into practice, though. Mars takes the teachings from Jupiter, which is the wisdom we've accumulated, and puts them into practice. Doesn't just get inspired by yoga or inspired by God or something, but then does the practice and sacrifices in order to grow. That's what Mars is there to do, to give us the strength to do that. Okay? So again, you bring him in the area of Gemini, which is a lot of ideas and curiosity. And it also shows that that we can, again, strengthen those perhaps calcified opinions and ideas. Because think back to 10 years ago and the philosophies you had and how you were defending them. The philosophies are Jupiter, defending them as Mars. And think of how you've changed over the last 10 years. A lot of that change comes from like Mercury and considering new ways of doing things, right? And think of along the way, as you were changing your philosophies and how you were handling them, how many arguments and battles and struggles you maybe got into with people over those ideas, where Mars is now trying to defend things as your paradigm of understanding is changing. So this is the way astrology can help us, is we can be aware and awake to the process of what's going on. And rather than get into the difficult quality of it, like getting into arguments and fights, we can see, wait a minute, just breathe, relax, and have that be the focus, instead of the focus being on trying to destroy the ideas that we think are wrong. maybe we can be listening. And maybe some of it is destroying the ideas that you think are wrong, but make sure you're right about that. And it should never be destroy another person. It should never be a fight or an argument with someone, because that's never the right option. Even if you have to break a connection, you don't have to argue about it. You don't have to fight with them over it. You don't have to be angry at them over it. There's no reason for that. That's just a waste of time and energy. Just like a great martial artist doesn't get angry, there's no reason to get angry. You say, this is right, this is wrong. Okay, here's my value system over this. I'm not angry about it, but it's very clear. And then you then allow the process to take hold. So to look at the nakshatras here, we have Mars will be in Mrigashira nakshatra until March 26th, and that's about curiosity, searching for bliss, innocence. The god is Soma. So there's going to be this searching for bliss and this sort of innocent search until March 26th. The symbol of Mrigashira is a deer. So think of like this deer symbol, right? Then from the 26th until April 22nd, Mars will be in Ardra nakshatra. Now that's a pretty intense one. It's related to Lord Shiva as the destroyer. So it's the courage to destroy things and to protect Dharma. So it's fine to destroy things, especially in service and in protection of Dharma or truth and righteousness. So Mars in Ardra from the 26th of March until April 22nd will give that courage to destroy the things that need to be destroyed, especially things that aren't in alignment with righteousness. And again, that doesn't mean you have to destroy people or their heart, or you have to inflict your anger on anybody. You can be compassionate the whole time. And then he goes into Purnavasu nakshatra from the 22nd until May 10th, which is about restoring the light. It's much more about heart integration and also expansion. It's actually related to like a divine mother type of energy. These are the cycles going through here. With Mars going through Gemini. And I see there's some nice comments here. I appreciate those as well. These are two really big shifts that have just happened. Again, both Venus and Mars shifting the same time, and there's a strong Mars emphasis. There's been a big move toward more potential for irritability, frustration, anger, arguing, those kinds of things. Because again, Venus went from Pisces, where we're in a very kind of exalted state of feeling and desire and appreciation of beauty. Venus goes from that to Aries, where we're like, okay, vigilant to like how we've been, maybe mistreated or disrespected, which can definitely bring some frustration. And then Mars goes from where he's been in Taurus for months since last year into Taurus. Again, Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's very peaceful, slow, and then and more subdued. Then he goes into Gemini, which is like the mouth. Mars and Gemini can be definitely like, now I'm ready to like, again, a similar kind of energy, vindicate, sort of push back against how, badly people have been communicating or whatever. So both of these moves have gone toward a type of energy which could be, quite difficult if you're not careful. So that's why I wanted to make this video for you. And I really appreciate it. And I hope you will, share it with others. And we'll just leave it at that. For a limited time, I'm offering 10 hours of masterclasses, Yoga and Vedic Astrology, Quantum Vedic Astrology, and Spiritual Astrology Masterclass. These are 3 great courses that will really help you a lot. Now, in case you don't know who I am, I taught the AstroVed certification course, Dattatreya Shiva Baba, in 2010. Ravi Shankar published my book in 2018. I've been around for decades. I've been teaching these great classes, and if you go to VedicAstrologyEssentials.com, you can get this 90% off discount of these 3 great classes, more than 10 hours, guaranteed value. You can check this out. These 3 classes will give you all the necessary tools to begin to learn Vedic astrology. Please find me on YouTube at Sam Jeppy, Vedic Astrology Teacher, on there since 2007, thousands of hours of classes. Also on Facebook at Astrology Teacher, tons of articles updated regularly, and I'm on Instagram at Vedic Astrology 108, ongoing updates and interaction.